breath, no heartbeat, just static remains. Hollow reflections, ghosts in the crowd. So come burn down my escape. I wanna feel it, come drag me into the void. Let my circuits decay. I'm sorry, but it's too late. You never
Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? So, if you notice, we have a different setup here. We have the official foot cam. This will be a temporary used camera angle for the sake of this review. I personally think these are a little bit silly, but who am I to judge? Since we're talking about pedals, there they are. Right off the rip, what you might know, first of all, these are the Simagic P700s. Today is the embargo lift day on reviewing, so welcome to my live review, where essentially I talk about the pedals for a little while. I try and give you the best TLDR I possibly can as far as a review summary, and then I jump into some sim racing. Today we're probably going to be doing some Racer Room when that time comes, but for now, let's talk specifically about the pedals and what you see here. So, these are the P700s. These are the new... I don't really know if you would call these mid or low tier pedals in terms of where they stack from a price to performance ratio, or I shouldn't say from ratio, I should say from a price standpoint primarily. For example, in the product stack by naming, because I've had this question asked a lot already about where they fall in the lineup of the Simagic lineup. For example, let me turn this music down just a little bit here. P500, P700, P1000, P2000. That is essentially where they fall in the product stack. However, I'm just going to give you the immediate writing on the wall on why these pedals are so awesome. For all three pedals, they're $210 or $209 technically, but I'm going to round up to the nearest, dollar amount that makes sense to me. Without the clutch pedal, it's $190. So in my opinion, if you have any use whatsoever at all for a clutch pedal, I highly recommend getting all three pedals for $210. They are insanely well priced at $210 price point for what you get. So, real quick, as you can see here, I have two haptics on mine because I don't really ever use a clutch haptic, but I have them on the brake and the throttle. However, they all come set up with springs. Thank you for the sub there, Bruno Gomes. The gas pedal here has, I believe, the softest spring I put on it because I like my throttle to be a very easy to maintain thing. Simply because when I'm flat out on a lot of straights, for example, like Le Mans or Le Mans, depending on how you want to say it, I have a tendency, if you pay attention to my foot, of doing this. I come off just a little bit. Now, you can set that in the software. Fun fact, I'll show you that. Right here. On screen, this is the Simagic software. Now, you can set that so that doesn't happen, but if you pay attention to my foot and the actual throttle percentage, notice how we're getting a little bit of change there? I have a really bad habit of doing that personally, where if I like the feel of a heavier spring, because it feels like I'm doing something, but I have a very bad habit of, in some straights, I tend to relax my foot a little bit. You can barely see that foot movement, and I'm coming off throttle there. So what you can do down here, as you can see, this is my slider here, my 1-to-1 slider. Let me move this a little bit for you. There we go. Now, I will say, folks, if you are diving into some of the newer released hardware, SimPro 3 is not as... or is a little bit more problematic than SimPro 2. SimPro 2 is a bit more dialed in. It's had more time. They are actively still pushing updates. This is a newer software. If you're on the older stuff, well, I shouldn't say the necessarily older, but if you're on P1000s or a Simagic Alpha Evo Pro or anything that came out prior to SimPro 3, for now, full disclosure, I recommend using SimPro 2. It's just a bit more stable. Technically, SimPro 3 will have a little bit more feature, but right now it's slightly buggy. I've experienced my share of bugs, so I just want to throw that out there. That being said, though, like all softwares that are new, expect updates, expect things to get fixed, expect things to get dialed in. You only have to use SimPro 3 if you're using the P700s or the Alpha Evo Ultra wheelbase, which are currently what I have on my rig right now. But that being said, now that I got that out of the way, it pretty much runs a lot like SimPro 2. As you can see here, we're moving our pedals around, and there you go. So, I really like these sliders down here. For example, since my foot tends to get lazy, right, I can dial this back. Let's go 90%, right? And now, if you notice the white versus the red line, the white is actually my foot input. Red is what the throttle's actually doing, say, per game. So right there, I would say I'm probably 85%, or actually this should technically be 90%. I'm probably 90% depressed, but I'm at 100%. So that way I have this little bit of range at the top of my foot movement that doesn't drift me off throttle when I get a lazy foot. And then obviously you have your, the throttle input. If you have a heavy throttle foot, I recommend this setting for braking, by the way. So let's go over to the brake real quick. I have my throttle to be, my brake to be linear right now. For those guys that have a bad habit of stabbing the brake in a panic situation, and let's say you don't have an ABS car, I recommend something like this. This really mitigates a lot of that initial bite, but if you push down on the brake, it eventually goes 1v1. Now, obviously, you can see down here I have mine a little bit turned down. That way I just don't have to push the brake as hard as the range of the actual travel. Now, mind you, little fun fact, this is a 150 kilogram load cell brake. Once I go over these little throttle inputs and brake inputs here, I'm going to jump over to some numbers for you, comparing it to other pedals and why I think these things are just... Honestly, if I didn't have P1000s, the P1000s are a better brake, a better pedal set, but primarily through overall just parts quality. They're just savage. They're the nicest pedal set that I've ever owned. I've had some decent sports cars, and I've never had pedal sets that were anywhere near as nice as my P1000s. That being said, though, outside of a very, very, very small initial adjustment, I don't know that I'm not using like a super high-end pedal set right now. These things feel fantastic underneath me. Anyway, let's get back over this here. Braking. I like mine linear, though, for most cases, but in situations where I'm driving a car that, for example, in Project Motor Racing, they introduced the Ford Falcon, which is a super high horsepower, non-ABS, non-TC car, and it has very, very small tires. It's kind of what those cars are known for. So, for me, to help mitigate my immediate lockups, I would do this. You can do it in-game as well, but on the hardware side of things, you can do it all in the software here. So let's jump back over to my beautiful face. And so, as you can see, my brake is far left. That's going to confuse some people. My clutch is in the middle. This is because I primarily use gas and brake, and I like to have the clutch pedal for things like clutch kicks. So, for example, if I'm in a Wreckfest. Wreckfest is a game where I absolutely would like a clutch on the ground at all times. So if I'm coming into a turn, I go snap, just like that. Little clutch kick, and it kicks the car out sideways when I need to. So I always like having a clutch. That being said, though, it is a lot more difficult to get used to a middle clutch setup like this if you're your casual H pattern guy that likes to heel toe. Can't quite heel toe. I mean, you can technically heel toe this, but you have to rewire your brain completely because you're heel toeing clutch gas, and then you're just braking like this, however you would brake, you know? So it's definitely a harder thing to do to get used to. But I would just defer my motorcycle friends to when they go from standard shift to GP shift, and it's no longer 1 down, 5 up. It is now 1 up, 5 down. Get some G Fuel in here. Only come here for good taste in music and foot cam. I like to hear it. I like to hear it. Also, this guy came out of nowhere today. Perfect for streaming. Anyway, so let me get my live feed up here so I can see more easily. All right, so let's get into pricing situations here. So I want to compare this directly to other things. So I am also a Logitech fan. I am not a Logitech affiliate, but I do like Logitech products. I have experienced everything in their sim racing lineup, except for the new H pattern, by the way, that did just come out. So a little plug for Logitech there. I'll be interested to see what their H pattern feels like. However, I have had the Logitech Pro pedals, and I currently have the Logitech RS pedals on my collapsible rig, because I have a Logitech setup on that. I have an RS50, and I have the RS pedals. Now, the RS pedals, without the clutch, is $160. With the clutch, it's $205. It is merely $5 cheaper than the Simagic P700s. However, these P700s at the same price point are way, way better. No diss, Logitech, but Simagic, with some of these new launches, is heavily attacking the market with their pricing. So, as much as I love my P1000s, this is not going to be someone who has P1000s to convince them to get P700s. You're not getting anything better. You're technically only getting something a little bit less inferior. It's just a less fancy pedal set. The material quality, while still really, really good, is nothing compared to the P1000s. And to me, that's where all of the money in the P1000s go. From a pure functional standpoint, I personally feel zero extra function with the P1000s. They're just a nicer looking pedal set, and they also have the ability to be expandable far more than these. That is an advantage. That being said, though, this is a 150 kilogram load cell. The Logitech Pro pedals, which come in at $390 or $380, one of those numbers, either way, it's one of those, has a 100 kilogram load cell. And I will also make the argument in defense of Logitech, you really only need 100 kilograms, but having more is also nice. Some people really like heavy brake pedals. That being said, though, so comparing them directly to the RS pedal has a 75 kilogram load cell. And overall, the build quality feels, while it doesn't feel bad, I used to think the RS pedals were like the bang for buck really good pedal set. And then these P700s came out, and I'm like, wow, the RS is, if I had to guess, the RS would have to come in at $150 for all three pedals to be price competitive with these at $210. Not only $5 cheaper. Because, like, I wish it's hard to, like, because I keep looking at the pedals. I want to pick them up and show you certain things. So this is where, like, maybe some reviews before they're on the rig would help. But I like to do them this way. That being said, from a pure quality standpoint, these things are actually really good. If you are in the market and on a smaller budget, and you are on PC, because again, that's the one hit I have to give Simagic, and this is not against Simagic, this is against the majority of the industry, except for a couple of brands, is that they are not console compliant. So all of the new Simagic lineup does not work for PS5, does not work for Xbox. So unless you are in the consoles, but there's a reason why my collapsible travel rig, as I call it, has Logitech on it. because I can use it on my PS5 Pro. That's the advantage to that. However, on my rig that I use PC and I want the nicest components, Simagic's doing some nice stuff right now. But that being said, these P700s, if you are in the market and you're on PC, but you don't want to deep dive into spending thousands of dollars, for reference, the P1000s as the base 3-pedal set, so they retail for $520, but I haven't seen them go for that. Well, yet, honestly. For example, SimShop is a local U.S. distributor, and they average, right now they're for sale for $470 as a discounted price. However, I've never not seen it be that price. So for sake of argument, we'll talk about the current market. They're $470. These are $210. I love my P1000s. However, they are not over 100% more value. 210 versus 470 is a night and day difference in price. Feel-wise, I cannot feel that difference in price. These just feel good. Like, it sucks that, like, I'm going to have to find a way to put these on another rig or something like that, because I like these pedals. To not use them feels like unfortunate for them because they're so nice. But if I was in the market and didn't want to spend crazy money, there's no pedal set I can think of right now that I would prefer over these. Now, I haven't tried everything on the market, so grain of salt there. Don't. Well, what about this pedal set that, you know, this and this and this? I'm comparing directly right now to Logitech. And this pedal set makes both of the pedal sets, both the Pro and because the Pro is, yeah, like I said, $380 to $390, and the RS is $205. Both sets of Logitech pedals at that price point doesn't make any sense. The only argument you can make is, well, they work on PS5 with a PS5 compliant base or an Xbox. So is that worth that money? If you're on PC, there's zero reason to look at those Logitech pedals. You might like the Logitech base, and that's fine. You can pair that with the Logitech base, do whatever you want to do. However, I think the past two launches from Simagic, the Alpha, Evo, Ultra, and these P700s have like shook up the financial side of the market, where I think if everybody else wants to get more competitive, they either have to lower their prices or give you more for the same price, because these pedals are good, man. And I'm not just saying that because this is technically a review of their product, and I am an affiliate. Full disclosure. I was shook when I used. When they told me they were going to send me these pedals, if I'm being completely transparent, I had zero interest. I was going to do it, part of being an affiliate, and then when I got them, I checked them out. I'm like, oh, these things are actually pretty decent. I put them together, put them on the rig. Inside of like maybe 15, 20 minutes of racing, I was like, yup, these are awesome. Now, I also have not used the P500s. However, the P500s are the same price. Let me just reconfirm that before I say that super confidently. Yes, Mr. Bozanov, I am sorry I butchered your name. They are $190 without the clutch pedal and $210 with the clutch pedal. At those price points, I highly recommend, even if you're not a clutch user, doing what I have here. Gas, clutch, brake. Because I would rather have a clutch pedal that I barely use for $20 and have access to it whenever I want to. For example, like I said, I like it right now, this setup, for clutch kicks and like either drifting or Wreckfest, which is essentially the same situation as a drift scenario where I want to kick the rear out. These are spend the extra on the P1000s. I have the P500, so it's going to be an upgrade either way. So that's actually a much better question than I don't have any pedals. Because I was going to say this. Get the P1000. If you don't have any pedal set, get the P1000s if you want like the super bougie, super high quality. They're overbuilt. They are wildly overbuilt. They're a beautiful thing to look at. In fact, let me go get them quick. Hold on. Hold that thought. I'll be right back. All right. I'm back. So these are what you would call my daily drivers. And unfortunately for the P700s, as much as I do like them, I'll be going back to my P1000s just because. But from a racing, if I am not looking at my pedals, I don't really notice a difference, if I'm being completely honest with you. However, let me get my wheel out of the way here. P700s, or sorry, P1000s right here. These are my absolute favorite pedal set that I've used so far, period. I haven't spent a lot of time. That's why I only brought up Logitech, because I have a lot of time on Logitech and a lot of time on Simagic. I have used other people's pedals, but I've never spent real time with them. I've been using these P700s for about 2 weeks straight now. But anyway, these have haptics. I have the spring kit for the... I really like... I will say, I am a big fan of springs over the... what's the technical term for the sponges? God, I sound ridiculous right now. I can't believe I'm blanking out on what they're called. You know, guys know what I'm talking about. My brain is just not letting me remember what that's called. This is the beauty of doing things live. Someone in chat, help me out. Help me out. Yeah, exactly. Buying the 3 set from the no-brainer, or from the beginning, is an absolute no-brainer. It doesn't make sense to not buy the clutch at that 20. Thank you, Fue, elastomers. Jesus. Oh man, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching, guys. This is my review by the local area dumbass. Anyway, I like the spring kit, so I run on my Simagic. I run 2 different weight springs, so that way it feels a bit more progressive. And that way, when I first press the clutch, I have a certain amount of pressure. And then when I want that last bit of braking, I have to stand on it. It helps prevent me from, like, panic braking and hitting too much brake all at once. But the elastomers, I will say, I ran the softer elastomer setup on the P700s. The strongest single spring was not strong enough, in my opinion, for a brake, which is in these pedals here. The clutch right there, the gold spring. That is the heaviest spring that the P700s come with, and it's just like, if you watch my foot, like, that's a good amount of force. That's way more force than, say, if you had like those really cheap plastic pedals that come with all like the G923s and stuff. But that's still not heavy enough for my level of braking. I have a habit of standing on the brake a lot, and so I'm running the softer elastomer. Now, you can mix and match them all to whatever you desire. I am using their recommended softer elastomer setup with a couple of progressive springs in it as well. It's a really, really nice feel. I like it. I have to kind of stand on it a little bit to get to 100%. Now, you can run the stiffer one, which I found way too hard, and I didn't do anything in between. So, with that being said, these are my daily drivers, the P1000s. They will go back on the rig. I don't know what to do with these P700s because they're phenomenal. So I feel like I'm gonna have to build another rig at some point. I need another room. That's the problem. So to answer your question, you already have the P500s. So my issue is that I have never used the P500s, and they cost the exact same as the P700s. Before I do that comparison, real quick, I just want to say the one negative from the cosmetic sort of feel side of these pedals, that maybe they'll later on have an additional accessory, or I'm sure the aftermarket's going to make plenty of them, are metal plates for all of the pedals. That's a metal backing, but it's a plastic cover. And it's a textured cover, so it grips whatever it's supposed to grip there, your shoe, whatever, maybe, I guess maybe not a sock, obviously, but like your foot or whatever. It's not a flat, smooth surface. I personally like a metal plate. You know, it just adds a very, very good dynamic of quality to the pedal set. Other than they can come off, though. You can replace them with anything. You can make your own, technically, if you're skilled with tooling, stuff like that. But that being said, that would be the one drawback of the P700s from a overall cosmetic and quality standpoint that I would like to see them make some accessories for in the future. Some nice pedal plates. I'm sure they will, because they make them for the P1000s are so modular, it's insane. But that is something I would give to the P500s over the P700s is that they have metal plates. But that being said, I don't know the quality of them because I've never personally had them in hand to be able to go through that all. I'm just comparing metal versus plastic in plain layman's terms. But if you have the P500s, I would have to make the educated guess that the P700s are better, but not better enough to justify buying the P700s. So I would say push more for the 1000s. If you can, if the money is, bottom line is this, unless you have money burning a hole in your pocket, I wouldn't do anything. But I would expect the P700s to be better than the P500s. However, I have to get the P500s in hand to really be able to confidently answer if it makes sense to go to the P700s, because I just don't know where they stand in terms of... I love these P700s. I think they're phenomenal to use, to the point where I don't feel any advantage to these, or to the P1000s over the P700s. They both feel fantastic, honestly. I'm going to put the P1000s on there because they're a bougier, nicer looking pedal set, but like, that's where it ends. And they're super modular. You can do all sorts of things to them. That right now, there isn't much you can do to the P700s, but they're also brand new on the market. So I would recommend right now, in your case, it would make more sense to go to a P1000. However, if they are a bit out of your price range and you wanted to try the P700s, and whoever you buy them from has a good return policy, that might be an option. You're on the P500s, you order a set of P700s from a reliable distributor that will take a refund or a full refund without like some restocking fees or whatever like that. Like overall, like sort of like a Best Buy or an Amazon type policy where you get 30 days. If you don't like the product, it's no questions asked, send it back to us, you know? Something along those lines. I don't encourage you to go out there and keep returning things because it's a pain in the ass for the industry. However, that's the best advice I can give you there. See if you like them. But I can tell you the P1000s are going to be an all-around upgrade in every way over the P500s. However, the P700s feel just like the P1000s. It's really hard to argue. You are not going to go faster from a speed scenario with a P1000 over a P700. I switched over to the P700s thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to learn how to race and brake. Nope. Got right back in, nothing changed. In fact, folks, if anybody pays attention to anything I talk about in Discord, my fastest time in Project Motor Racing on Sebring happened on these pedals on like day 3 of using them. So I have the feeling I'm going to go to my P1000s and potentially be like, man, and I kind of miss those P700s. I hope not. I'll be honest with you. I hope not. But we'll see. All right, let me read some of these questions here. Yep. The word I was looking for, Mike, was elastomers, but bushings is close, but elastomers. Build an extra rig at your house? Right. I would love to put them on my travel rig, but my travel rig is built specifically for PS5 because I can't bring my computer with me when I travel to, like, say, the in-laws for a week. I can bring my PS5 in my travel rig, so I need the Logitech stuff on it, unfortunately. Not that I have anything against Logitech, but in a vacuum, we're comparing right now. The P700s blow the RS pedals out of the water for the same price point. So it doesn't, the RS pedals at their price point don't make sense unless you absolutely need the PS5 support. I am not using a Zeus wheel. The Zeus wheel, I don't believe, is in anybody's hands. I obviously get things ahead of time, being a Simagic affiliate. However, no, this is the FX Pro. This is their currently, this is actually one of their older wheels. Still a very, very good wheel, but until the Zeus wheel comes out, I can't tell you whether the FX Pro in this current climate is a good purchase or not. Because if the Zeus wheel, with the way they've been getting so aggressive on their pricing for these parts, if the Zeus wheel comes out anywhere near the price of this FX Pro and they don't lower the price of the FX Pro, I can't recommend the FX Pro. However, if the Zeus wheel is very expensive or if this price comes down and it makes sense, well, then there you go. Because this is still a very good wheel. It's right now, it's currently their best wheel. But the Zeus wheel fixes a lot of issues, at least on paper, that I've seen in their teasers that I don't like about this FX Pro. And it brings a lot of the new features from, say, the GT Neo or the Neo X Hub, things like that, to the FX Pro. The FX Pro, for example, I noticed had it off, you can't take this off. So you can't run a mag link. You can't run another brand's adapter without having to, like, switch just add an extension to this or something like that. So this wheel is not very modular in that sense. Whereas the GT Neo, I've actually put my GT Neo on my Logitech base at one point using the mag link and using Logitech's adapter. The QRA, for example, that I have on another wheel, fantastic piece of kit. Can't do anything with this. Not that you would use a QRA from Simagic on this wheel, because that wouldn't make any sense. But the point is that every brand has their own sort of version of the QRA, and quick release adapter, by the way, and you can't use it on this wheel. I very much am looking forward to the Zeus lineup whenever that does rear its head. No, I am not on PMR, Dano. I will be doing some race room in a little while just to show the pedals off in action. I got to branch out a little bit from PMR. I love my PMR, but I also love race room. And race room's getting an update before PMR that I have to give it some attention to, so. Looks like you can configure the brakes more in the P700. Yeah, it looks like it. It's one of those things where, yes, but I don't want to speculate too hard about things over the P500 simply because I don't have hands-on experience with them. I have hands-on experience with the 700s and the 1000s. Can the P700s fit the haptic motors or just the... Well, these are technically that, but yes, they can. It absolutely can. They run the same adapter. So if you notice, on the 700s, I have two biggies and a small guy, one for the clutch. These run the exact same adapter plate. But at the same time, they sent me the small ones because it makes sense from a financial standpoint. What about compared to the G Pro pedals? So, comparing them cosmetically, I would say the G Pro seems like more of a premium pedal set. Mechanically using them and feeling them, these are better than the Pro pedals of Logitech. I've had the Pro pedals on Logitech. I really, really like them. I currently have the RS pedals on my collapsible rig. These P700s break that pedal lineup for Logitech, unless you absolutely need PS5 support, like I said, or Xbox support. But if you are on PC, right now, these pedals make the Logitech pedal sets just not make any sense financially. These are built more of like a webbing style skeletal structure from like the pedal set, which is kind of what the RSs do. They're a little beefier than the RSs feel a little thinner. These feel much thicker and stronger, but whereas the Pros have the more of a P500 look to them, where they have like the fancy bass and they sit in the bass. While that looks nicer and feels a little more premium at first glance, I really like how they're doing, like how the RS pedals are. I really like how the P700s are, where they have individual pedal sets and a plate, the heel plate that just goes over the front that holds them together. It's a really efficient, nice design. You can tell that that's the way the industry standard is kind of moving towards, because they're all starting to kind of do it. But in my opinion, Simagic's execution of it is a lot more quality. Not to knock the RS pedals, but let's face it, they are underbuilt by comparison, and they are the same price with all three pedals, and they have half the load cell weight. So you've got, or pressure, I should say, you've got 150 kilograms on the P700s and 75 on the RS pedals. It's a 100 kilogram load cell on the G Pro pedals. So, like I said, I can make the argument you don't need more than 100 anyway, unless you're one of those guys that wants to just stand on a ridiculously hard to push brake pedal and wants a range of adjustability there. I'm not one of those people. I like a practical brake pedal. So 150 is beyond more than enough, and 100 is enough. But that being said, from a numbers on a spreadsheet standpoint, bigger number better. 150 kilograms is better than 100, whether you need it or not. Yeah. What's going on, Tuna? You going to get back into the sim racing stuff, Tuna, or what? Are you just popping in to say hi and then disappearing for another 6 months? Anyway, before we get a little off track with sim racing style reviewing, I do want to handle all the numbers and questions up front for the sake of people who might want to watch this back and not dance through a bunch of nonsense. So, what questions do we have, say, specifically about these pedals by comparison to maybe something else or whatever you got? Let's see. Might be a noob question, but what does the cylinder type thing on the pedal do? The cylinder type thing on the pedal... Oh, it's haptics. Are you talking about the little red circular thingies? They're essentially true force for pedals. Some say the rubber mat moves. I guess I can show you the design. Let me pull it off quick. See all these little things? There's a bunch of holes on the plate. This goes in those holes. And they're not that easy to get in. They're like... I'd say they're probably a 1 to 2 thousandths smaller. Hey, Tuna! Thanks for the $10, sir. I appreciate that. Unnecessary, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyway. How is that gonna slide around? That can't possibly slide around. It sits in holes. Can I ask who, or maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't ask who said that. There's no way this can move. There's 0 ways this could move. I appreciate that, Gio Rivera. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. I'm probably butchering it. If so, I'm sorry. So it's not force feedback. It's haptic. So it doesn't. It's not like, because like force feedback would be like an active pedal, like the Moza M Booster or the Simucube active pedal. Those are force feedback pedals. Haptics is just vibrations. So like you'll feel, for example, how I have my setup with haptics is I have a front and rear butt kicker on the rig. By the way, I don't use any of my haptics when I stream because it's just distracting and adds vibrations. It's an immersion thing. It's really cool, but when I'm streaming, I don't use it. I have a butt kicker on the front and the back of the rig to get front and rear, or sorry, rear and front, or front and rear vibration. So curbs, engine, gear shifts, things like that. But on the pedals, I primarily use them for curbs. So basically, if I drift right onto a curb, my throttle foot feels the vibration right at the back of my foot. The ball of my foot feels the vibration immediately. The problem with the butt kickers, if you try to put them on the rig, like say a 4-corner kit, because there's so much space and so much metal in between, let's just say front right butt kicker hits the curb, or it's simulating the front right tire, which is what's going to activate that butt kicker on a curb. The problem is that my butt kicker might be the only one that goes off. However, it's going to heavily mitigate through the rig where the vibration is coming from. So you're not really going to be able to easily tell you or to be notified where that vibration is coming from. Obviously on screen you're going to see it, but if you're just going based off of feel, which is the point of haptics, you don't really know where it's coming from. It just kind of feels like the whole front vibrates rather than the corner. Whereas on the pedals, the first thing the haptic does is put it into your foot. There is absolutely no way that the haptic on the throttle foot will get vibrations to the braking foot on my left side before the throttle foot. So my foot will literally feel 100% of the vibration right away before anything else is felt. So I really, really like it that way. That's why I run them like this. The clutch, I haven't found a real good reason, honestly, to put a haptic on the clutch pedal. I just don't know why you would do it. Yeah, they typically come in 3 as a pair. You can get them individually too, but, you know, that's why my P1000s have the small one on the clutch. Well, whatever. I can maybe figure something out for it, but for the most part, the haptics on the throttle and the brake are what I like the most, because ABS. You can change the frequencies of all the haptics and all that too, so you get ABS pulsing. So when you stand on the brake and activate ABS, you don't have to look at a blinking light or listen to a sound. You can feel it in your foot when you're activating ABS. Like if you want to stay away from ABS, for example, you can feel it in the braking foot. Boy, what are you running for pedals? Since I know you're a Simagic user, what do you actually have for pedals? I know you have the 15 Newton meter alpha bass. Sounds something fancy? Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. These accommodate that. I believe the P500s do, but I don't know if they accommodate the bigger ones. This, you can bolt any of the Simagic haptics. You can pull the biggest ones to it. I don't recommend, by the way. Unless the P1000s are a much heavier pedal, so I can understand why you would put the bigger ones on it. But these are a much lighter feeling pedal, and there's less material in the way. So there's just no reason to stuff that much haptic on those pedals. Like my ABS is a slower, because basically how it works, it sits in a piece of metal. It sits on a magnet inside and goes back and forth. I probably shouldn't do that on stream, huh? It goes back and forth, right? So essentially, when an ABS pulses, it's a much slower back and forth travel. So it can move your actual pedal. So there's really no point to have a super heavy haptic on a tiny little pedal. Gio, short for Giovanni. Got it. That's what I figured, but I wasn't sure if that was one name in there or two or whatever. Just ordered the P1000 with the extra spring kit. Been waiting for these to drop to make my decision. That's honestly a good decision considering you have P500s. I would say if you have P500s, the P700 probably isn't unless yours break or something, you need to get a replacement. Then I would move up to the P700s. But if you overall want the more premium, better pedal, the P1000s are still better than the P700s. But if you don't have either, then I could absolutely say maybe get the P700s over the P1000s for the price. Because you're not getting over twice the pedal advantage. But anyway, there's no way. Just to flub those weird reviews. I've been using this pedal for, what'd I say, 2 to 3 weeks? I already forgot. This has never moved. It was kind of a pain in the... Like, put it this way. I'm not going to put this in until after stream. Because these things, they fit inside the holes, but they're at such a tight tolerance that you really got to make sure it's perfectly placed in there to get it in. That pad is not moving. Pad is not moving. I don't know why anybody would say that. People are weird. So, all right, let me see. Let me scroll before I answer that question. In Durden, we trust. I have the P2000s and love them. I have not used the P2000s, but I have been told by a lot of Simagic people, and by people I mean company people, or at least affiliate adjacent people, that if you have a dolled up P1000 kit, there's not a whole lot of reason to go to the P2000s. And honestly, looking at them in pictures, I have no interest in going to the P2000s, put it that way. Even if they sent me a set, I'd be like, you can. It's just, honestly, it's more work. I'm fine with my P1000s. But yes, the P2000s are very nice pedals. I could just make the argument that for the price, I don't see a point to go past the P1000s. But don't let that... If you want to spend the money and get P2000s, they are technically the best pedal Simagic has to offer. As a Simagic affiliate, what's your current setup you've been racing the most? Obviously, you said you've been going back to the P1000. So obviously, the Ultra just came out. I don't see me ever not using that, if I'm being completely honest with you. That completely shook up the industry, in my opinion, from how much it costs. I was expecting it to be over 4 figures. And when they told me the price on it, I was like, oh my God. Unless this thing totally sucks, like it under-delivers, even at that price point, which it doesn't, in my opinion, over-delivers, I won't be using any other bass. Period. I don't know if you guys saw my stream the other day where I had a challenge. It was yesterday's daytime stream where I did the entire stream, all the races at max force feedback. So 28 on the bass and then max in game. My shoulders are on fire right now. Absolutely on fire right now. Don't recommend, by the way. I did it because I had the ability to. That's the only reason. I don't recommend. I have the Simagic H pattern. I have the Simagic, the standard e-brake, the one that isn't, doesn't have the hydraulic. Has the elastomer. But in all honesty, like, I don't know what the obsession is with hydraulics in sim racing. Because you're not moving. Like, I've missed the disconnect from hydraulics in sim racing and how they conjunct, not a word, how they compare to real life. Because in real life, you're moving something on the other end of the hydraulic, which is why you have hydraulics. But in sim racing, you're not moving anything. Like my pedals, like my brake pedal, doesn't go to a braking system that will need the support of hydraulics. It's just resisting me pushing on it. So in my opinion, an elastomer, a good elastomer setup, or a good spring setup is going to do everything you need it to do from a resistance standpoint. I just don't understand the hydraulics, and that is... They're all doing it. Simagic included. They all have hydraulic setups, and I personally don't understand... Now, maybe you might get a little bit more refined feeling of it that you just can't achieve with an elastomer, but I just can't... I don't know. I can't justify necessarily what it costs adding a fluid to devices that could potentially leak for the sake of not needing it to leverage something on the other side of the input device, you know? Like I said, in brake system, in clutch, you're moving a heavy pressure plate with a clutch. That's why you want hydraulics. In brakes, you're moving 2 to 6 piston or 8 piston calipers, I suppose. You know, and you're trying to clamp down on something that's resisting it. Like there's a force and there's a mechanical device on the other end of the hydraulic. On the brake pedals, on the e-brake, on sim stuff, there's nothing on the other end. There's just your brain feeling the resistance. That's it. You know? There's a sensor on the other end that tells you how far you've moved it. That's all there is. So I personally, I'm not anti-hydraulic. If you like it and it makes you feel better and it makes the feeling better, then use them. But I'm missing the connection there for why to have hydraulics over just a good spring or elastomer setup personally. But that being said, back to your question. Sorry, I went on another tangent there. I'm using the FX Pro. I have a Neo X here for my round wheel. I do have the GT Neo, and I do have the QRA attached to my Sparco drift wheel. However, I am selling my GT Neo wheel because I have the FX Pro, there's just no point for me to have that wheel. So I think I have someone locally that is going to buy that off me because I would like to, you know, sell some of my older stuff that I'm just never going to use again. Stuff that I've purchased, by the way. It's not good taste to sell stuff that's been sent to you as an affiliate, by the way. Don't recommend doing it. But stuff you've purchased, it's free reign to do on your own. I've purchased my GT Neo. I'm selling it because, unfortunately, while I think the GT Neo, for what it costs, is one of the best wheels in the market, I'm just never going to use it again because they have the FX Pro. And the FX Pro is a better wheel with a screen and everything. So, P1000s are my daily driver I just showed you. I think that's everything I have. Pretty standard setup, you know. Also, too, I did touch on it earlier. The SimPro software. I don't know if you guys are remembering on stream last night that I was getting a little upset about my H pattern shifter doing the disconnecting nonsense that you've seen be an issue with them. I had a feeling, a hunch, that maybe it's related to the software. SimPro 3 specifically. Because this issue just popped up out of nowhere, and I haven't been using SimPro 3 for very long. I think it's a bug in the software where it's unregistering in the software. Because there have been times where I've turned on SimPro 3 and my bass isn't even registering. And it's on, and it's specific to SimPro 3. SimPro 2 does not do this. So last night, when I got off stream, I decided, you know what? I'm going to close SimPro, and I'm going to throw my H pattern around. I couldn't get it to do a single disconnect in an hour of testing. However, it's fairly easy to duplicate. Not easy, but it can happen relatively commonly with SimPro 3. So like I said, right now, SimPro 3, full transparency, it needs a few more revisions. SimPro 2, if you had to pick right now, if you could use both, I recommend using SimPro 2 for now. I think they early adopted into the mass market SimPro 3 a little too early. My opinion. Still a good software. I still like SimPro software. It's a very simple to understand software. However, there are some weird bugs that they're still working out with SimPro 3. So that's just my genuine opinion there. If you don't, like, for example, the P700s and the Alpha Evo Ultra need SimPro 3. So unless you have those two pieces of kit, I recommend for now sticking to 2 until you start hearing reports of 3 not having some of the problems. I've experienced a couple problems. Nothing like super game breaking. The H pattern one has been the most game. That's provided that is in fact the software. I'm speculating because I couldn't duplicate the issue with the software closed. So, and it's USB disconnects though, which is a potentially known mechanical issue with the H pattern. Potential. But mine's not that old. Mine's only 6 months old, so. No, actually, now that I think about it, I run load cell on the P1000s. Actually, you know what? I didn't even think about this. Good. That's actually a really good question. Because when I switched over to SimPro 3, I never did this. I never did that. So yes, technically, I am running angle sensor on my P1000s because I didn't switch this back when I switched over to SimPro 3. So good catch on that. Good catch on that. Well, I guess we'll do a calibration. I normally, in SimPro 2, I 100% use the load cell. That's a good catch. See what 80 feels like. I liked where I had it with angle, so I'm just trying to duplicate it as best I can. Yeah, I definitely like load cell feel better, mainly because when you get right to the very end, you really have to push that little extra to get the full-on break, whereas angle, it's angle. It's a very, very linear feeling the whole time. Whereas the load cell, it progresses with your pedal feeling, you know? Good catch on that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Since I switched over to SimPro 3, I've been running at an angle this whole time. Good catch. That's why at first, when I read your question, I was like, huh? and then it's right there in front of my face. Hey, listen, no one said I was smart, okay? But yes, this is how I do run it load cell. That is my preference on every pedal set. But that being said, full disclosure, load cell is definitely better, but there are plenty of fast people using angle sensors instead. Load cell, in my opinion, is a bit more refined and a bit more immersion friendly. But I don't think it's mandatory from like I want to be fast in a sim standpoint. It's like anything else. You can be fast on a controller. You can be fast on a G923. You don't need the high-tier kit stuff to be... In fact, you're not going to go faster with the more expensive stuff. However, you're going to get more immersed in it. It's going to feel better to you. Load cell, to me, feels better. It just... Like, the way I set the pedal, feel-wise, how it feels progressive, angle sensor doesn't feel progressive. You know, even though it technically is super linear, it's an angle sensor, it's how it works. Load cell is built off of pressure, and that's how you configure the pedal mechanically. So it feels a bit more authentic, you know? Right there is how I like that. I also like to leave 5% dead zone on the start, too, just to avoid lazy feet again, where right there, my foot might be dragging on the brake just from a little bit of weight on it. Notice how the white bar is lit up, because it's physically, the sensor is detecting that, but it's not doing anything. That's where the dead zone's at, see? Red is what the game is receiving. White is what the pedal is receiving from my foot. And see how the dead zone switches? Because I have 90% off the top. So basically, at some point, it starts a little lazier for the lazy foot. And then, just so I really don't have to stand on this 150 kilogram sensor, I pull 10% off the top. And then obviously I have like 15% out of the actual pressure. Or 20%, sorry. But yeah, I really like that. Good catch, by the way. Thank you. Let's see. I got the GT Neo, want to upgrade to the FX Pro, but I think it's just... Here's the thing. My recommendation is wait for the Zeus regardless. Even if you don't buy the Zeus. The Zeus is going to tell you where the FX Pro falls on the market. Like I said, if the Zeus wheel comes out too close in price to the FX Pro, and the FX Pro doesn't get a price reduction, then I can't in good faith say get the FX Pro. However, if the Zeus comes out super expensive and the price gap is wide, that's a viable reason to get the Zeus, because the Zeus is a much better wheel than the GT Neo. It's not that the GT Neo is not a good wheel. It's a very good wheel, but from a feature set standpoint, the FX Pro kind of kicks ass. It's just an older, dated wheel. I wish it had a second dial on it, the actual like Joy-Con style dial, not just the knobs. I do believe the Zeus gets rid of the fifth and sixth paddle, though. So you have your clutches and you have your up and down shift, but you don't have the top ones. Which, mind you, so far, the only thing I've bound to these is left and right turning my head in a sim. That's it. Yes, Fway. The plate is... it's just... Well, then again, you might not have used the RS pedals. They are individual. Each one is built to be individual. You bolt it right down. You can get rid of the plate. However, you probably wouldn't like the feel of it with nothing, because you need something to step your foot up to the pedal. You know? So, like, for example, it might be hard to tell here, but if you look in the back here, my feet's, the back of each pedal, they're all bolted directly to that. This plate underneath it is the rig. The front of the pedal set is sitting on the actual plate. I don't think my other camera would be able to turn and see it. I'm showing you the back end because I wanted you guys to see the actuation. I think, let's face it, if we're going to have pedal cam, having you go from the front and seeing my feet first is relatively pointless. other than you get more of my feet and you get to see what I see. But from an actuation standpoint, this is a much better view to be able to see what's happening down here. The brake feels really good in this thing. I'm actually shocked the brake feels as good as it does for what these things call. I'm shocked about these entire pedals in general. Like, my title for this live is not clickbait. That is my review in a massive summary title. The new standard in affordable sim racing. They're crushing it, in my opinion. Absolutely crushing it. Because I thought the RS pedals for Logitech, when they came out, were the industry standard price to performance ratio. These just blew it out of the water. Yeah, you could do that, but it's still not one-to-one feel versus what's happening. Because as the brake pedal is getting stiffer, you still might be... it's hard to explain, but like... Load cell makes it feel more one-to-one. Pressure, your effort versus the actual brake resistance. It makes it feel more like you're stepping on brakes rather than just moving something on an angle. You can do either. In my opinion, like I said, I was on angle this whole time testing these P700s and didn't know it. Because I dialed them in through I'm not even showing you guys. I dialed them in through all the same adjustments I just made with the load cell. So it's not much of a difference. But load cell feels more authentic because it feels more one-to-one and it feels like you're actually pushing down on devices that are behind a sensor, whereas the angle sensor is just measuring the angle. You know, either works fine for you. You're, like I said, in my opinion, you hear a lot of guys talk about sim racing and load cell pedals, and they talk, oh, you absolutely need a load cell. I disagree. I very much disagree. You do not need a load cell. You just need good brake pedal feel. You need to be able to adjust the brake pedal to resist your foot so it feels good and you can control the car well. Because if it's floppy and you can just put the pressure of your foot on the brake pedal and activate the brake, you don't want that. You want there to be some linearity to it and or curve or whatever you want to call it, because that's what these are, curves, right here. You want that to be adjustable. The load cell is less important, in my opinion, over the angle sensor. The overall, the ability to set up the brake pedal matters more. Again, my opinion. But I still prefer the load cell because it just feels a bit more authentic to me, you know? But, like I said, I didn't even know I had an angle when I forgot to switch it to load cell when I set up the Simpro 3. Smooth, I did all the other stuff, but I didn't switch it over to load cell. Like I said, thank you, good catch, because I'm an idiot. Direct drive, I would say, any direct drive is going to get you most of your gain over a cog style or a belt-driven wheel. But even then, the human brain adapts very well. No matter how hard I try, no matter how much money I spend on sim gear, I'm still going to lose to a guy with his thumbs with a G923, if they're better than me. You can just adapt and overcome so easily, especially when you're younger, you know? The way Simagic's been pricing new stuff, I doubt it's going to be much higher than the FX Pro. That's what I'm saying. Based off the way, like the the Evo Ultra really hurt the retail price of the Evo Pro, in my opinion. In my opinion, the Evo Pro, well, not in my opinion, mathematically, I should say, objectively, the Evo Pro would have to come in at $600 instead of $700 to match the dollar per Newton meter ratio of the Ultra. I don't necessarily think they should one-to-one it because there needs to be a reason to want to buy the Ultra over the Pro, because I think most people are going to be fine with the Pro. But if they're incentivized, like, well, I'm spending this much money on this one, and I'm only spending a little bit more to get the one that's got an extra 10 newton meters, which you're really never going to use. There are more advantages to the Ultra over the 10 newton meters, but that's the primary selling point. Let's face it. That's the primary selling point of all these direct drives. How heavy they are from a newton meter standpoint, how much force feedback they can throw at you. All the other stuff gets talked about in a review situation in the fine print. But the main advertising point is the overall force feedback delivery. 28 newton meters versus 18. I run... Here, look. Look. Oh, wrong thing. Look what I have my Ultra set to. 18.2 to match the Pro. However, I do genuinely believe these numbers are not one for one. This hits harder than the Pro did at 18. I think the GT Neo is the most efficient wheel on the market right now for what it costs versus what you get. There's one thing that the FX Pro does, and I have the feeling it's also related to why now on the Zeus wheel they have a closed bottom as well as top. I don't ever like open handles because it creates a lot of flex, right? However, you see it complained a lot about in the Discord, and I hear it too, but I also understand why it does it, so it's not something to complain about. It's just something you got to deal with. This is a carbon fiber wheel. The whole thing's not carbon fiber, but the main front plate, the support section that bolts everything together, is carbon fiber. It's thick carbon fiber, but it's still carbon fiber. Well, this wheel has a little bit of like creak and crunchiness to it that can be alarming to you if you don't understand what carbon fiber is. Fun fact, I never recommend in the automotive industry people buying carbon fiber to replace plastic. Like on motorcycle fairings, people are obsessed with replacing flexible, good-fitting plastic fairings with carbon fiber fairings that have no flex to them. And by the way, carbon fiber is like a razor blade. So if it's touching anything, it's going to just dig its way through. Carbon fiber is super overhyped as a material, but it's very bougie. It's very premium. But I prefer plastic or composite in most of the structures of things over carbon fiber. So anyway, this has a little bit of like, I guess crinkling would be the sound you would call it. It is completely normal. But just know if you get an FX Pro, if you don't have a headset on and you're just playing in a quiet room, you're going to hear all sorts of creaks and crinkles coming from your wheel. It's not breaking. It's just what carbon fiber sounds like. And it is normal. However, carbon fiber is a more premium material and it makes its way into more premium products. Race car stuff makes all sorts of disgustingly bad noises at the peak of best hardware created. Sounds terrible. So just be prepared for that. I'm pretty confident, though, the Zeus wheel is going to cut down on that by having a closed bottom section. So there's just less torsional twist. Didn't even know Evan was into sim racing? I've been YouTubing it since about November. But yes. The biggest reason I decided to switch up the YouTube stuff was because, well, this is just easier than going 200 miles an hour in real life. That's the short of it. You know? And plus, not to mention, too, I've my entire life been in some form of racing. I play video games, but for the most part, if I was going to stream something, this is the avenue I'd want to go. First time I ever braked in a sim, I was like, what the F is the screeching? Oh, yeah, exactly. The amount of people complaining about the braking sounds in PMR, it's like, have you ever had like a carbon ceramic brake system? Do you have any idea what that shit sounds like? Like, the organic brake pads your regular car comes with doesn't make any noise. It also doesn't stop. You know? Anyway, not everybody's obviously going to know those things. But, like, I really get aggravated when I hear people complaining about realism in Sims. They'll complain they want their sim to be more realistic, and when they actually get the realism, they hate it. And they think something's wrong and it's bad. You know? Like, one of my biggest complaints about is in PMR is the windshield visibility. The reality is, it's realistic. It looks like a dirty, scuffed up Lexan window. You ever been in a race car that has a Lexan window? You see how much visibility you lose over using your eyes in the atmosphere. That's realistic in the sim, but I hate it. I want it to look like there's no windshield there with the exception of maybe a little bit of a glare. Other than that, I want no filter over that windshield. The reality is that people don't want realism. They think they do. There are some aspects of realism that they want, but they want, if you got like audio is one of those things where, do you have any idea what realistic audio would sound like in a race car or a motorcycle? It would just be nothing but muffled, cloudy, shitty noise. It would sound awful. Put a helmet on and do anything. You hear yourself breathing the most you've ever heard. And then all the sound gets muffled and gets destroyed. Video games amplify audio and make it sound really good. Forza Motorsport 8 had some horrible audio, but it was accurate. It sounded like when you chase cam, it just sounds like muffled, peaking microphones. It sounds terrible. That's what it sounds like. You ever put a microphone behind a loud exhaust? The microphone's going to peak and crackle and distort and sound terrible. It's not going to capture audio good. Anyway, sorry, a bit of a tangent there. Bit of an anti-sim racer person tangent. But I'm saying the thing is that it's not about the clipping, because I rarely clipped with the Pro. Trust me, I rarely clip with the Pro. The force feedback just hits harder in the same range. I don't know why. And there have been some complaints out there that the Pro doesn't quite feel like it has the full 18 Newton meters that it says it does. I don't know how true that is. I'd have to compare back-to-back 18 versus 18 and other wheelbases. But I can tell you, I primarily compared the Alpha Ultra at 18 Newton meters to the Pro at 18 Newton meters. And the Ultra, more detail at the low values, hit harder at peak. It really feels like if the Ultra at 18, or was at 18, then this is at like 20 to 22. It's just how it feels. And I don't know. It hits harder. Oh, I'm not saying you were complaining, ETR. I'm just saying in general. All right, so real quick, before I move on to doing some racing, does anybody have any questions before I move on away? We're still going to be talking about the P700s and gear and all that stuff, but I'm going to be doing some race room. Also, for any of you guys who do play race room and were paying attention to their tech talk yesterday, their TED talk, if you will, they're finally fixing the stupid settings for your wheel, the angle versus in game. You can't adjust it in game, so you have to set the wheel to whatever the car is if you want the wheel to be 1-for-1. And I like my wheels 1-for-1. I don't like more or less angle. I want it exactly what the car is supposed to be. Now you'll be able to set, if you set your wheelbase to 900 in the software, you can set every car to 900 in the game and it'll be 1-to-1. I can't wait. That is such a desirable thing. They said this UI is not getting updated in the next update, but the options will be getting more polished. Still need to watch it. Yeah, go check it out. We're getting 3 new tracks, 2 new cars. I don't know which one. You guys vote. What should I go with? Yeah, gotta run the ads. That's all. That's YouTube. You just turn monetization on and boom, you get the ads. I'd advocate to get premium. I've had YouTube Premium for, I've only got 2 cars, though. I've had YouTube Premium for a long time, so I haven't seen a YouTube ad in the longest time. The original reason I got YouTube Premium was I wanted to be able to listen to music or listen to videos and then just turn my screen off on my phone. They put that behind a paywall, which was pretty ridiculous, but hey, it is what it is. Going on, AJ? So let me ask you guys. Any of you thinking about going to Simagic? Obviously, some of you I've been talking to already have Simagic. But I think right now, let's face it. If you're a Simagic user, more than the Evo Ultra, more than the P700s, you're waiting for the Zeus lineup of wheels. Wheels are the most desirable thing in sim racing, period. Rightfully so. It's what you stare at. It's what you feel directly with your hands. I get it. So right now, if you're a Simagic user, you're waiting for the Zeus lineup announcement. Because guess what? I didn't expect to like this base as much as I did. I'll be honest with you. I was content with my Pro, had no interest in upgrading to this, and it just so happens I became an affiliate. In that time frame, I probably wouldn't have got this base, but now that I've experienced it, I wouldn't know what I was missing from when I was having the Pro. Now, is it mandatory? Hell no. If you don't experience this wheelbase, you will never, ever, ever, ever have a problem with your Pro. There's nothing wrong with the Pro. Pro is an awesome piece. I just think the Pro needs to be a little bit cheaper based off of the way this one is. This is just too good. But I've been looking forward to the Zeus wheel. I want a Zeus wheel really bad. Really, 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 really bad. When you finally build a piece, honestly, that would be my absolute recommendation, ETR. I'm a Simagic affiliate, but I'm not going to knock Moza. Moza's doing some good stuff. Right now, in my opinion, if you go to PC, because obviously neither one of them can work on console, Moza or Simagic. I'm partial to Simagic for obvious reasons, but I pay attention to what everybody else is doing too. Moza's got some nice stuff. Alright, let's try this out. I am very confused. What the hell just happened? That's a good ad for Simagic, isn't it? None of my stuff's working. That's funny. I don't know what that was about. Steering's not registered. I'm so confused, guys. I am so confused. That caught me off guard. I did nothing. It just went straight left into the wall. I had no pedal control and no wheel control. I've been a single player for now. No, good to hear, Andrew. Sorry to hear that. What chat? I was just testing out Race Room yesterday. One thing I got to say about Race Room that I hope they eventually do is they get their overall, because it's working off. I mean, that is their plan to get away from DirectX 9 and stuff, but it's a very, very, very slow sim. I mean, I know a guy who's a Simagic affiliate that has a discount code and an affiliate link in the description of this video. Just saying. Just saying. That took a long time to load. I have no... What is happening? My car's just drifting. Is this game broken right now? Race Room, what are you doing? The brake works. None of my buttons are working on the wheel. What is... I'm gonna restart the game. I am so very, very confused, folks. Let's close a couple things here. Get my beautiful face on screen. Let's close Steam. Let's shut my wheelbase off. Let's just restart the process. Right? Boot up SimPro. All right. Yep. Wheels registered on SimPro. See? Throttles are registered, brake, clutch, everything's working. So it's physically registering there on my computer. Sim Shop, I do believe, is Texas, yes. So basically, if you order from their website, they use whatever country you're in's distributors to ship it. I've had things come from New Jersey. I've had things come from Texas. Let's see if it's broken. Let's just make sure. Yeah, we got no throttle. Brake works. The brake's bound. That's good. Steering is parked left. What happened to my bindings? All right, so... left. Right. All right. Steering is set up. Accelerate. Disconnected. I did all this. Did it not save? All right, we got throttle. We got brake. Clutch in. Want them on here. All right, we got clutches. Shift up, shift down. Yep, we're good. Okay. Yeah, nothing's bound. What happened? That's what's... I don't know why that's unhappy right there, but... weird. It says ID stuff. I don't know what happened that made this do this. Notice how it's switching from ID2 to ID3? Same bindings, though. This has got to be on their end. I was just using this game the other day, and they said that they're updating their controller inputs. But we haven't got an update yet. So weird. It's making me rebind everything. It's almost like the game is now registering this as another FX Pro device. That's why it's the ID3. Same button mapping, but it's ID'd as another device. Did it re-register if I like swapped out a USB port or something? Is that possible? I guess that could be it, I suppose. Alright, I think that should be good. Alright, car started. No, I don't have SimHub on. Software-wise, I've played this exact game. Like, everything you see here, I have used in this game. Nothing changed. But for some reason, the ID of my devices is different. I know I have been messing around with USB ports on my hub, so I don't know if that had something to do with it. That's quite possible. Alright. Now that we got it working, let's get back to the actual races we were going to do. That was very strange. I don't know why that unbound everything, or why it was all my devices are ID'd differently. Alright, let's see. Oh, well, we're going to get into the Tatis F4 Cup. I'd rather drive that anyway. Can't say I know this track, though. Usually happen to me if I have it plugged in via USB or versus wireless. Yeah, but I guess is that a race room specific thing where if you use a different USB port, it identifies as a different device, even if it's the same device? I don't know where I'm going here, so get the line on. This is not going to be a good race for me, boys. I don't know where I'm going. Fun little track, though. I already like it better than Interlagos. That doesn't take much, though. How's Feet Cam doing right now? Looking professional or what? Oh boy. Oh! I thought we were going to have a nice little drift in our hands right there. Race Room needs to be more popular than it is. Why is it that my favorite racing sims are the least popular ones? Oh, I know why. Because I tend to not think like a lemming. That or they release really bad. They all release bad, that's the thing. All the most popular sims release terrible. I think 2.0 is going to crush it, though, if I'm being honest with you. I think 2.0 is going to crush it. I'll be honest with you, I'm happy we're getting Spa back in Race Room, but I am most excited for not having, because I didn't do it. I forgot already. I have no idea. I did it again. Same shit. I drifted it a little better that time. Don't be concerned. The only thing, in my opinion, to be concerned about is people, not the game. But I can confidently say don't be concerned. Don't expect all the game's problems to go away with 2.0. But yeah. Clearly not going to set a lap. I'm too distracted. All right, let's get to the race. I'll learn in the race. Will people come back and give it another chance? We'll see. I will say the 10-player lobby limit is very lame right now. Oh, it is. It's so much more comfortable. I get judged. So, like, why would you do that? I'm like, do you like sitting like this to race? This is so uncomfortable. And not to mention, I'm old. My lower back does not appreciate sitting offset for hours like this. So, yeah, this is the way to do it. But I also like having the clutch. I don't like having a two-pedal setup. I like knowing I have the clutch there. Like I said, if I want to clutch kick it out of nowhere, something like that. Clutch kicks are underrated, too. Obviously not in this kind of racing, but... This Tatis F4 is such a fun car, man. Now, one thing I wish PMR would get, and I think that's going to keep, in my opinion, Race Room slightly in front of PMR, at least from a PC-only standpoint. Open wheel, baby. Open wheel is such a good... Like, not the new stuff. Not the new open wheels. All the hate that F1 is getting, like real modern F1 is getting, there's a reason why people hate it. All the good shit's old. It's in a much better state at launch. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to the news about it or anything like that, but the first DLC comes out by the end of this month. And 2.0 is essentially a relaunching of the game. That's why it's called 2.0. I mean, let's face it, it's marketing number speak, but you have to market your game. Oh, there we go. Look at that. I got it that time. It's unpredictable. I don't know the track, so that turn is like, I don't see it coming anytime. But, if the servers were dialed in, yeah, I'd say it would be, it's the best driving experience. Race Room and AMS2 are my other two favorites. I don't like, of the three though, the driving is the absolute worst in AMS2. It's pretty close, which I like. Yeah, just go in front of me. Just go. I don't want to slow you down. Which driving I like more? PMR or Race Room. But I want to give it the edge to PMR because it's got something about it just makes it feel more lively. I don't know why. Sense of speed, things like that. I don't know where I'm going. I'm driving so slow, man. It's worth more than $20, if I'm being honest with you. At what all these Sims cost, if we're going to go based off of the cost of other Sims, it's absolutely worth way more than $20. I mean, not that I'm a smart person with my money by any means, but the kid who makes me my liveries for PMR, I made a donation to him yesterday. That's more than, you know, what some people pay for Sims. But I basically invested in my future of, hey, I need you to make me a livery in this car. Without feeling guilty about it, you know? But like I said, I'm also not smart with my money, so. But I also don't believe anybody should work for free. It's a fun track. I just have no clue where I'm going. No idea. This turn is so unpredictable. That's the best I've been able to do right now, is kick it out sideways on that turn. I know it's coming too, and I just can't seem to like manage the turn. It's because it's like an over-the-hill hard left, and I just don't see it till the last minute. Trying to get out of everybody's way, but I still think ghosting and quality should be a thing. That way you don't slow anybody down and nobody slows you down. You can just run your... That's what quality is. I understand it's not realism, but it's still a game. I'm never going to get it. I'm never going to predict that turn. I know it's coming too, and I'd never actually see it until it's too late. Did I not bind that button? Or I did. I gotta hold it, that's right. God. Look how slow. I'm 10 seconds off pole. That's ridiculous. When you don't know where you're going, man. It's all the pedal's fault. If I had my P1000s, I'd be 119, not 130. Come on. Alarm? I just hope to not be in anybody. When I'm this slow, I let people pass me. I'm not going to battle with you. I don't know where I'm going. I know ranked racing is very capable of being fun, but it sucks to just be all forced into a track or a particular race where, like, you're just clueless. Like in this particular situation, I am clueless as to where I'm going. And I know that I'm going to slow people down. Maybe I'll jump into some PMR after this since I know PMR a little bit better. I don't know. I really only wanted to do a 2-hour stream for this, but we'll see. Bruh. Yep, this looks like a typical online ranked race to me. Whole bunch of bouncing betties. Take it. Not unless Moza has an adapter that can plug into a Simagic wheel where you can't take the hub off. Of course Google says that. Another AI answer that was never proofread, that got regurgitated. That's the most, like, that's the reality of what, like, the AI answering systems are. It's the most regurgitated answer. How many times is misinformation spread like wildfire through the internet? And it's just substantially wrong information, but it's said enough. Well, that's where it's getting its information from, so... Yeah, you can't, on the FX Pro, one of its, like, older wheel disadvantages, that's the turn. I always think that's going to be the turn, and it's not, so I hit the brakes right there. So I'm talking about not knowing where I'm going. It takes me a while to learn tracks. But does the adapter fit the Simagic hub? That's the thing. Because you can't remove the Simagic hub from the FX Pro. You can remove it from the GT Neo, the Neo X, and you can put whatever adapter hub that the company sells so it bolts to the base. But on the FX Pro, you can't unbolt it. That's the disadvantage to the FX Pro. Yeah, but you can still use USB cable on the wheel to go to like SimHub. Because the FX Pro is, I mean, maybe not button binding, but at least a screen anyway. No, you can do button binding too. You would basically just take the, it's only a USB-C though, so that could be problematic. Not like a mag link. But, as soon as I hit, shouldn't have touched the brakes. Should not have touched the brakes. Do I have that? I don't have that bound, do I? Can I use my mouse? Nope. Nope. Well, it says fix, so I might have screwed myself. I can't accept the changes. Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, so send me a link in Discord, AJ. Yeah, I know. I butchered that. I'm distracted. Multitasking. Probably shouldn't have joined a ranked race. I was even thinking that was probably going to be a bad idea for this stream to join a ranked race. Because now it's like, finish the race or... My bad, those were blue. I just realized I didn't see the blue flag. It didn't dawn with me. But those guys are just lapping me. Probably should have let them by, but oh well. I recommend it. I'm just quitting. There's no point. I'm too distracted. I can't possibly get into it. I'm holding other people up, trying to play. I couldn't care less about ranking, by the way. That means nothing to me. Let me answer some questions here. Yeah, I priceless. I definitely recommend getting Race Room. definitely the starter packs, good price. What I was going to say, AJ, is in the Discord, link me to that component so I can check it out quick. Oh, you already did. Never mind. Oh, that dude, Fway? That's the one? I'm going to bite my tongue. That dude has said a lot of stupid things. A lot of stupid things. Yeah, no, that won't work. Because, so, to use that adapter, right, you have to be able to remove this from Simagic wheel. Get my, here. So this right here, if you notice, on this Neo X hub, right, you have those 4 bolts right there. It's hard to do this mirrored. You unbolt this, and then on the other side of that plate, you unbolt this hub, and then you put the Moza QRA on this, and then now this will bolt to the Moza, the wheelbase. On the FX Pro, it does not have any way to unbolt this. It is fixed on there. Perma. The only way you're getting that off is to take all the bolts out of the front of this thing, split the carbon, do all that, take this entire wheel apart, and maybe try swapping it out there. And even then, I don't see you... I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to take it apart. I'm not going to find out. But the GT Neo, the Neo X Hub, and the new Zeus wheel can all unbolt this by backplate. Just like this. And then you put the QRA adapter on there. The first one you sent me is the one that I have. That is for if I wanted to put any wheel that I can unbolt this from, like a Moza wheel, Fanatec wheel, whatever. Any of those wheels that I can unbolt this, and I put the Simagic QRA adapter on here, and now I can put that wheel on the base. No problem, AJ. No problem. But yeah, that's where I'm saying the FX Pro is like a bit of a dated wheel in that aspect. You can't do a lot of things with it. It's really meant to just be used with this. The only way you could get this wheel to work is if somebody made a specific brand adapter, meaning this hub slides onto an adapter, and then that adapter slides onto that wheelbase. That's the only way you'd be able to use the FX Pro on the wheelbase. And as far as the electronic side of things, you use the USB port, and you plug that in directly to the USB hub, and now you can just control it with its software, its proprietary software, or SimHub through that, and then you can bind everything in the game. The FX Pro will register as its own device, completely separate from the wheelbase. Let me see. I'm going to get out of race room for now. I'm going to get something a bit more casual. I'd have to look more into that about the USB support, because that's how you have to set the wheel up initially when you first plug it in through that USB. But I'm pretty confident. Let's just find out. Find out together, folks. Hold on. Hold that thought. All right. Here we go. Let's pull up SimPro. Right now, clearly our device list here. Oh, you can't see it. Jesus. Device list here. FX Pro. Now it's gone. And now it's back. It isn't doing dash info, though, I'll say that. Like, it's got that, but it's not showing me the programmed ones. So you might be right on some of that support. Yeah, it's not registering any buttons on screen. I'm hitting the buttons, and it's not highlighting them, so let's do it this way. Yeah, see how it's registering buttons now? So you're probably right on that. I'd have to look more into it. Yeah. So you might be right on the button regs. It just acts as like a wheel. Interesting. There's another reason to not get the Pro over the yeah, so that's there's like more and more reasons as to why you can see people wanting the Zeus wheel. I mean, obviously if you have the Simagic wheelbase, this wheel is perfectly functional. But you know, bottom line is this, that completely checks me out of ever buying this wheel because I can't remove the hub without an adapter to adapt it to another wheelbase. And I don't mean the QRA adapter that every brand has. I mean like an individual specific, say, Moza to Simagic adapter, where you can't remove the hub from the wheel. Other than that, yeah, I would only ever use this wheel then if I had a compliant wheelbase. Yeah, it is outdated. That's the thing. It's a super nice wheel, but like that's why I'm saying like when the what's it called? Zeus lineup comes out, depending on what the price is, it's gonna basically like cannibalize this wheel or make this wheel a really good purchase. There's really only two scenarios there. Or, I guess on the other hand, I guess it could be a third scenario where the Zeus wheel is so expensive that it's a ridiculous buy. But the reality is, best case scenario for the consumer is that the Zeus wheel comes out at I'm guessing, I don't know. I'm totally speculating. I have not been, and even if I was told, I wouldn't be able to say. But just know that me guessing right now is coming from a place of an absolute guess because I have not been told the price. If I had to guess, I would say $700. Maybe more, but not much more, if I had to guess. If it comes out at that price point, let's just say it comes out at $700, and this stays $550, don't buy the FX Pro. Period. You would never get all the way up to $550 on a wheel and financially go, I don't know if I can swing $700 for a wheel that is fundamentally better in every way. You know, so the idea for that screen that makes the detachable magnetic screen so good in their next lineup is essentially I have my round wheel, right? I have the screen in my Zeus wheel. I take my Zeus wheel off because I'm driving a car that I want to drive with a round wheel. I remove the magnetic screen. I magnetize it to my base, and now I can see the screen through this wheel. Right here, the gap. That's a really nice, convenient feature set right there. Hey! I mean, if it here's the thing, if it comes out at $1,200 and the FX Pro doesn't have to change a damn thing. I don't see it being 12. I could be wrong. Maybe they're going to come out right at 1,200. I have no idea. Again, I have not been told any price. I have no idea. We're not there yet. But for what it's worth. I wasn't told the price of the... I already had the wheelbase before I knew the price. So, the Ultra, I mean. They're a lot like NVIDIA, where Jensen Huang doesn't come out with a price until he decided the launch day. Like a couple hours before launch, he's like, yeah, that's what we're going to charge for it. I'm lazy. I want to do some racing. But I don't want it to be hard. Also, since I'm streaming and I have full grid of AI, I am going to need... Oh, it's already on. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, it's YouTube doesn't allow the links like that. That's cool. I can't see the wheel costing more than the wheelbase. Oh, so default is 3. Yeah. Well, I tried 5 the other night, and I noticed I was real slow in the straights because I thought 4 was default. Got it. Oh, hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. We don't want any of that mess. Now we want session info. Nice clean HUD. All right, this might have been a little too easy. It's a lot better, but it's about to be a lot better. Well, we know on minimum AI, apparently I only need 1 lap to pass the entire 32 grid. No, it's not like unlocking new cars or anything like that. It's not Gran Turismo. That's Gran Turismo shit. It's a sim. You have the cars. If you're looking for like an unlock system grind, this is not it. This doesn't have anything like that. You can get trophies, like platinum type trophy stuff, but no, career mode in this is not much of a career mode like that. Yeah, career mode is extremely basic. The thing about sim games, like real games that target real sim racing, there's not a whole lot of single player aspect to them. LMU is fragging right now in the sim space, and that game is so incomplete from a total game. It's just online competitive racing. But that's what sim racers want. There is a dynamic of people that do want a good single-player campaign-style game, but single-player and sim racing has always been, opposing sides. People want to compete with people. People want a PvP experience for racing. A lot of people anyway. Anyway. Read some of these comments here. The Zeus wheel isn't going to be out to this. Here's the thing. There is zero. Everything you hear about the Zeus wheel is complete rumor and speculation. Complete rumor and speculation. In terms of pricing, in terms of when it's releasing, etc. They unveiled three new products at the last Expo in October. There might have been the one in Germany before that. Or that might have been the Germany one, but I'm saying that might be the one before that. Either way, they unveiled the Zeus wheel, the Ultra wheelbase, and the P700 pedals at the same Expo. 2 of the 3 of those have already released, and it's March. So, I would guess definitely before fall. There you go, Renovadio. This entire game is getting an overhaul. The next update is going to be an overhaul of the game. Is Race Room good again? I've always liked Race Room, so I don't know when when you considered it bad. And I have not tried to know. I mean, I've driven LMDHs at Sebring, but not in ranked. Pretty sure the AI is still pretty broken for this class, but we'll see. Yeah, like I said, the AI is not very good in LMDH. Like the AI is not smart enough to handle the speed of the car. Case in point. And then what happens is now the front of the pack, even on their like easiest setting, is going to be really hard. By the way, this is my next livery, this car. So what I'm having them work on next. I did hear about Project Helix, but there's way too much rumor and speculation surrounding it right now to make, you know, like, is it going to have the whole Steam library? Is it going to be Steam at all? Is it going to be its own OS that shares some PC hybrid shit? You know, there's a lot to it that, until it comes out, I just don't see a point of, like, once you go... Alright, that didn't go as bad as I thought it was going to go. If you're going to charge over 4 figures for a game console, it's going to have access to Steam, or be using Steam as its OS, you're not really a console anymore. Now you're just a PC. I don't know why I didn't push the brakes right there. You've just become a pre-built small form factor PC at that point. Your Steam machine. There's no difference. Oh, I'm weird. I'm not excited about Helix at all. I'm a computer guy though, so like, you're just... it's like a transition system to get into a PC. I don't really know... I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah, but I like consoles too. But the advantage to a console is cheap, easy to use, and that's it. That's the video gaming barrier to entry. You know, making it a console, a computer. Just build or buy a computer, because it becomes no longer about what can it do that's computer-like. It's more about what can it not do that a computer can do. You know? Spending over $1,000 on something for a device that can just play video games, to me, seems like a ridiculous waste of money. Like, I have a PS5 Pro, and even that price was like, you know, $700 was a little... Alright. Yes, it is the best console, so you can technically defend the price of it for that, but at the same time... we're losing touch of what consoles are. An affordable, consumer-friendly way of playing video games. Like right now, I'm on PC. Everything you see happening here is done through one system, one computer. Gaming, streaming, I can record at will. Have YouTube up on one screen, desktop YouTube, music playing. Overhauls a lot. Overhauls a lot. A lot of it I can't say, but there's a lot. Yeah, that's the only reason I have a PlayStation right now is console exclusives. And PlayStation seems to be the only one getting exclusives that mean something to me. Things like Starfield are not a reason for me to buy an Xbox. Things like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's a reason to buy a PS5. Ghost of Tsushima, not anymore, it's PC now. But Ghost of Yote, which I really liked. Things like that are why I have a I want to say PS6, a PS5. But there is no reason for me to own an Xbox. Zero, none. I have a PC. And if they're slowly turning Xbox into a PC, it's not about... Weird. The game just paused out of nowhere. Nothing else, just a pause. Yeah. Only need a second 5090 for DLSS 5. Just so my character models can have lip filler and eyeshadow. Yeah, they really unveiled DLSS 5 all wrong. They're just so disconnected from the consumer. Here's the reality of it. DLSS 5 is probably absolutely incredible and a massive leap forward for video game visuals. But they unveiled it in the most literal AI sloppiest way possible. Like, you couldn't have made a worse decision. If you pay attention to any level of consumer feedback, you did the polar opposite when you unveiled it. Astounding. You're learning real quick, no matter how good, like, I mean, not for nothing. Jensen Huang, a little later in life, however, is repeating the Jeff Bezos origin story. the exact same thing through and through. Jeff Bezos was once a decent human being that cared about his employees. Can you imagine that? Porsche have Botox injection? So, AI was 8 seconds slower. The fastest AI was 8 seconds. Actually, they're pretty consistent. Yeah, that's actually interesting. See, that's how it should be, though, in my opinion. I mean, they were all equally slow, but the point is that the fastest lap was, I think, 159.178. And the slowest lap was 200.989. 1.8 seconds difference in slowest to fastest AI. That's what it should be. But in GT3 right now, the second place AI Lambo is like 4 seconds faster than everybody else on the grid per lap. How do you find full races on Race Room? What do you mean by full races on Race Room? Can you be a channel member? I probably because I haven't done it yet. I could do memberships. I don't know. A lot of like the self-marketing tactics for like content creation are I don't know, man. I hate to use the word cringy because it's overused, but that. Like, I don't want to give like restricted access to people through like memberships. I'd rather everybody watch my shit just for free. I don't think there's any reason to be scared. I also don't think it's going to be make or break. I think people put too much pressure on scenarios. At the end of the day, if in a year from now, let's say the game dies in a month, right? In a year from now, the game can make a comeback. And if let's just say the game, all of a sudden in a year from now, it goes under the radar, comes back out as like a bombshell game, the same game. You think if the game is amazing, people aren't going to pick it up and play it? At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the game being good. And it doesn't matter. It'll be like games that are bad flop. Games that are good don't flop. Like if they're good at their core, they will not flop. No matter how many people on YouTube hate something. Because at the end of the day, there are more people not watching YouTube than there are watching YouTube. Sure. Typically, the people that buy a game on day one or pre-order a game also watch YouTube. But I don't think people realize how casual the masses are. The amount of people I get in my stream that have never heard of Project Motor Racing, it's actually pretty wild. Rusty Nail, I'm literally defending that exact argument. Affordability. Consoles going to 4 figures, at that point, you're in PC territory. Maybe not right this second, but it will at some point stabilize. Consoles are built to be an affordable way to get into gaming. PCs, there's a reason why it's called PC Master Race, but the reality is it's a more niche way of playing. It's more expensive. So by making consoles 2 to potentially 3 times as expensive, you have now raised the barrier of entry 2 to 3 times. And you've taken the PC cost gap and the console gap, and you've done this. To the point where it's no longer about that cost. It's about what you can't do with this, that you can do with this, that doesn't cost that much more. You can't look at like my computer or something that people who go crazy spending stupid... I don't recommend to anybody they ever build what I have. I do it because it's my hobby that I love doing, that I've done my entire life. But I never recommend for someone to spend that kind of money on a computer. Because technology gets outdated so quickly, it is not worth doing. However, like I said, I have my PS5 Pro that costs $700. That to me was like a stretch in terms of like accepting the cost of it for what I got. Going over $1,000, I will never buy a console ever again. That's it, it's over. Never going to happen. They're way too expensive for what they are. For the limitations of the console, it is way too much money to spend. Because a PC, everybody looks at a PC versus a console in just the eyes of playing video games. Yes, if you are only getting a PC to play a video game, or only getting a console to play a video game, there isn't much argument that the PC is the way to go financially. It's the poor decision. But it's not about that. It's about all of the other things you can do with a PC besides playing the video game that you just cannot do on a console. And when you raise the price of that console without giving it all of the features of that computer, you are essentially making consoles a harder argument to ever get one. It's not about gaming. It's about the cost and what you can and cannot do with that thing. So in my opinion, consoles either stay under $1,000 forever, unless the cost, obviously the cost of inflation, all that stuff is always going up. So obviously the inflation is always going to be part of the argument. However, bottom line is this. Xbox Series X cost $500 in 2020. To buy the exact same console right now, it costs $700 or $650. Either way, 6 years after its release, it is fundamentally outdated by comparison to what it was when it released, even though it's the exact same thing. But that's not the way technology works. When you are the same thing you were 6 years later, and technology in the computer space has continued every year to get better and better and better, essentially the performance gap increases, and now you're charging more money for it. Consoles are built to be a barrier of entry so people can just buy their console. They can sit down for a couple hours a night. They play their video game. They have a good time. Not a whole lot of cost. Not a whole lot of repercussions. A whole lot of fun and having a good time. Very simple, straightforward. I have a console for a reason. But when you double the price of the console now, or triple it, depending on what the console is, and you only give me a little bit more feature set, and I can do whatever I want on my computer. Literally, whatever I want to do on my computer. There is nothing my console can do that my PC cannot do. But my PC can do hundreds of thousands of things, literally, that the console cannot do. But that's so fine, I accept that, because of the cost. That makes sense. But when the cost of the video game console goes up, and the only thing I'm going to get is access to potentially my PC game library, you lost me. You absolutely lost me on the cost. I'm not an advocate for no one should have a console, everybody should game on PC. I enjoy my PC. I get very excited for someone when they can afford to do it, because in my opinion, it's a pillar of video game life. But Consoles are not supposed to be expensive. Not like that. I have zero interest in the Helix. If you're already convinced that the Helix is going to be like a big step forward in video games for consoles, they got you on the marketing. They got you. Like, if you're still making the argument that the Helix is the way to go, if it's, let's just say hypothetically, that it is like $1,200, if you're making the argument that that $1,200 is worth it for what you're going to be able to do with it, and a PC is not, they got you. They got you. They preyed on your ability to be worried about jumping into what you can and can't do with a PC, because there is a massive learning curve. Massive learning curve. But once you understand it, so prior to this AI boom, because that's the thing, the AI boom has broken, but here's the thing though. Let's pretend the AI, this thing that's happening right now in technology, because it is affecting everything. It's not, it's a PC only thing. It starts there, but it trickles its way to everything. Let's pretend this AI boom is not happening and things are normalized. RAM is not stupid, because RAM goes in consoles too, goes in cell phones, goes in cars, goes in everything with a chip. Let's pretend that's not happening. It's not driving up this stupid price war, which will end at some point. It will at some point fundamentally break a law, and enough consumers will rebel against it. It will pop. When? No idea. But it will. Here's the thing. We're doing too much, like, it's too hard to have this particular conversation in this climate, because we don't know what the cost is. Bottom line is, RAM prices didn't increase Game Pass. Greed did. So if they're going to do that, do you think the cost of the Helix is honest? I don't. Not a chance. Microsoft, as a company, does not need the Xbox. They could give away Xbox. Xbox could be a free charity event. Microsoft, hell, their stock prices would probably go up. But, as a whole, they chose to jack up all of their prices beyond. Remember, Xbox was going up in price before this RAM boom. This RAM thing is a completely separate thing from the cost of console prices right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Xbox raises their prices again on Series X, because it's trickle-down effect. RAM prices haven't affected a lot of things yet. They affect directly buying RAM. But to answer your question, prior to this AI boom, for I would say $2,000, I could build you a computer that would crush the not even released PS6. Like, the video card in my computer is over 10 times as powerful as a PS5. And that is just one component. Mind you, it's expensive, but it doesn't scale that way. So, let me see. What's, look this up. So, a 5070 Ti is a graphics card. It has 4.5 times the power of a PS5. And it costs about what a PS5 Pro would cost. Obviously, that's only one component. However, it is fundamentally the most expensive component of a computer by a landslide. So if, let's just say, my GPU, my 5070 Ti, which is your gaming performance, by the way, costs $700, I could build you the rest of that computer for probably $700 prior to this bullshit RAM boom. My computer has 64 gigs of like top tier memory in it. Super fast, low latency, all the bougie shit. It cost $200. 64 gigs. The console has 16. And it's all faster than everything that's in the console. Right now, my memory kit costs $1,200. That's the AI boom greed bullshit. So right now, my advice is just don't build a computer. What Limberto did, I recommended. The computer he got was a Micro Center pre-built. And there were a lot of incentives in the cost, like price reductions by buying their pre-built. I couldn't build what he bought independently. And they charge. Obviously, they're making money on their pre-builts, or else they wouldn't do it. It's not a charity. Nothing's a charity. It's all for profit. But so the thing about the price of the Helix is obviously, I would imagine as a business, the price is going to change throughout the years before it comes out. But my brain, I read some numbers and my brain went bye-bye. When is the Helix projected to release? Like 2028, 2029? I gotta drink some water. All right. I don't know what's up with my throat. The problem with the used market is the used market is just as easily scalped. For example, I have a $100 kit of never been used memory. Well, that's a lie. I used it to make sure it worked because it was part of a combo deal that I had no use for. It is now worth $500. When the time comes, I'm only going to hook someone up that's a friend. Someone's going to pay me what I paid for it, $100. I'm not going to mark shit up because of the climate of the landscape. I like the technology. I'm about the technology. When one of my friends is ready to build a computer and needs it, I will, and they, of course, want me to build it, they'll pay me $100 for the memory that's worth $500. But the used market is not like that. The used market will charge based off of what things are actually valued, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but it's still shitty. whoa. You can tell I'm used to the pre-warms. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, since I'm in ranked, I should probably do this. Yes, agreed. It's a matter of hoping it works when you get it home. Yep. Good on you, Eagles. The only reason I would sell mine is because it's brand new DDR5. And I just want my money back. That's all. I got him. I'm not even going to qualify. I don't care enough, I'll be honest with you. I'm probably going to do this race and get off, though, by the way. Appreciate it, Rusty Nail. Thank you. But yeah, no, unfortunately, I mean, I have basically less than zero interest in the Helix. Specifically for myself and also for just about anybody else. I think if people really, really embrace that and it doesn't move the needle at all, I think people are giving in to corporate greed. Actually, I want those backwards. Shit. I really wish this was worded differently. I hate mapping this. I never know what direction I'm going in here. Unbind, 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 unbind. That's how I want it. I also hate this track. I shouldn't say hate. That's a strong word. There's a reason why I run Nords and not 24-hour. Because when I run 24-hour, I'm just trying to get to Nords. I couldn't care less about the Grand Prix portion. Ah. Fine, it's not a quality lap. Fair enough. Wow, 3 people. 3 whole people. All right, let's try a race. Probably too much, but I don't care. Yeah, I hear you, Slick. I hear you. Apparently I don't have my thing on. Luckily I saw the sign on the track. Wow, now it's 1v1. Eight laps, a 1v1. I do not trust these tires yet. I hate this fucking track. Sorry, can't swear. Listen, nobody hates NVIDIA more than I do, but at the end of the day, their product is very useful to me. This is all default. This is repetitive, man. These, like, the small tracks where you have to do a bunch of, well, 8 laps isn't a lot of laps, but when you don't enjoy the track, it is. Ah! Apparently I don't have my penalty and notifications on either. Ugh. Losing interest. This is literally putting me to sleep. I'm not gonna lie. My eyes are getting heavy doing this. Two more of those to go. If 20 laps on this, I would not do. I would just never do it. There's only a few tracks that can keep me racing on them, like on repeat. It's not these like little bit of gas, a little bit of brake, little bit of gas, a little bit of brake. That just does. I can't do it. I can't. I'm not built to be a race car driver mentally. Maybe in a real race car, it'd be a little more adrenaline and dopamine filled, but we're getting there. Oh, I got 2 seconds. I lost. No idea when I got that, but I got a 2-second penalty. Oh, G fucking G. Great way to end it. If this is ranked racing, I'm literally never going to rank race again. I really want to know when I got that 2-second penalty. The 2 track limits I know I got did not get me the penalty. Obviously, my notifications are not on. Eight laps of this bullshit to race one person and lose to a penalty. God, sim racing drives me nuts sometimes, I swear to God. Congratulations on getting your win. Yep, get me out of this. Yeah, either way, I hate that track. I've always hated that track. It's why I always do Nordschleife and not 24-hour. Because when I do 24-hour, I can't wait to get through this nonsense to get to Nords. I just do not like that track. Alright, good. I have no idea how the ranked works. Don't care. I'm calling it. I'm done. I'm exhausted by it. Anyway, the pedals are great. Oh, that was. There has not been, I think, 2 or 3 ranked races in PMR yet that have appealed to me at all. I mean, in PMR's defense, I feel like Sims are just constantly choosing pretty like blah ranked races. I know they want to mix it up in variety, but there's not a lot of creativity in ranked racing. Like, why have we not gotten, or have we, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, we got the Ford Falcon release. We have Bathurst. I'm just saying, that race is a shit ton of fun. And I got this boring GT3 race on Grand Prix. Nürburgring Grand Prix. Anyway. All right, before I just go into a complaint session, that's it for me. I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll be back on my normal time, 11 o'clock. Tomorrow, I don't know what we're doing yet. I'll figure that out throughout the day. But no stream tonight. I might play a little tonight, but I'm not doing any streaming. This is just a special one because I was reviewing the embargo lift of these P700s. So just to quickly recap, the P700s kick ass. They are only $210. They are a great pedal experience for sim racing. If you are in the market and you're on PC, I very much recommend Simagic, and I do recommend some of their more budget options, especially some of their newest stuff that's kind of like really disrupting some things. So that being said, that's my closeout. I'll see you all tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Take care, boys, and have a good day.